Okay, grade 10s. For those of you who are still awake, go to sleep. Alright. Okay guys, this program that I'm going to show you now is very important. There are one or two things that we're still not familiar with, for example this validation story, and also working with a date variable. Now I looked at your exam this evening and there is a date variable, right? They will ask you to work with a date. So I'm going to show you how to do it now and make sure you know how to do it come the 4th, right? Okay, so the question that you see here, make sure you understand it and you know how to do it, okay? It will help you a lot. Alright, so you can see here they ask for the user to enter the departure date, their name, their surname, and then they can book a reservation, and we'll output like a reservation code. Alright, so we take their details, we make a code, what. Okay, I'm going to go to the code now, and I've divided this into sections. Okay, so the first bit of input that we are going to need is a library card number via an input dialog, in other words an input box. Alright, you can see I've declared a couple of variables here. So library card number, we're going to keep it as string, even though they're going to be inputting a number. I'm guessing, and you'll see later, we are going to be copying certain numbers from there, and so we're going to use the copy function, and it's just easier to keep it as string. Alright, and I've got first name initial, char. Okay, what's the difference between char and string? Char is a single character. String is a concatenation of many characters. It's a string of characters. Right, so C is char, H is char, CH is string, right? Okay, cool. Okay, and here is a variable that is of type tDate. So whenever you're working with a date, and this component is a tDate time picker, alright, the variable type is tDate. Alright, this is the first time we've used this. Okay. Oh, and by the way, guys, the exam is very doable. I'm excited. Literally, this is like almost the last question, so similar to the last question. So this is the more challenging, and the rest is like really doable, guys. So positive, okay? Right, I'll get into it. Get library number. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the variable library card number. Alright, and I'm going to use an input box. Okay, and my instruction will be library card or the name will be library. The name of the input box will be library card input. Alright, the instruction will be enter 6-digit card number. Alright, and then just empty quotes. Alright, cool. The next instruction is to validate library card number to make sure that it is exactly 6 digits. Alright, so if it is not exactly 6 digits, they want the program to stop. Alright, they don't want the code that you write here to be read, because the program mustn't continue, because his initial input here is not right. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First of all, let's test that length. So if library card number highball. Alright, so if the length of this library card number, now how do we say not equal to 6? We say if it's smaller than 6 and or greater than 6, it means it's not 6, am I correct? So if this happens to be smaller or greater than 6, it means it's not 6. So this is a way of saying if the length of your library card number is not equal to 6, then what should we do? First of all, they will say display an appropriate message, or say show message. Alright, must be 6 digits. Right, and then importantly, how do we stop the program? You say exit. Alright, that means whatever happens here will not be read. Okay, cool. Next section. Validate pickup date must be after today. Okay, that makes sense, eh? Departure date, and now you're leaving 2 days ago, yeah? It's not working. Okay, so that's the validation. We need to take the date that we're going to put in here, and we're going to test it if it's after today. If it's not after today, stop the program, show appropriate message. So first of all, what I'm going to do is populate this variable with the contents of this. Okay? That is not what I'm going to do. Yes, that is exactly what I'm going to do. Alright, cool. So, let's do that. Pick up date. Alright. And in that variable, the name of that component is DTP pickup date. And then the property that you refer to is just .date. Alright, so if you go here, you click on that component, there should be a date property. There we go, date. Okay, this is not happy. Why? Because I put a plus sign. Okay. Now, we're going to take this and compare it to today's date. And if it is before, I'm going to show an appropriate message. So this is how you do it. If pick up date is smaller than or equal to, so it can also not be on today, date. Alright, so whenever you're comparing a date to today's date, you just use the word date. You don't have, this is not a variable that you declare, but very importantly, in order to use this date, you need to include in your uses this. You got to include system dot date utils. System dot date utils. I might just edit your exam to include this by default because I mean we don't want to remember too many new things at this point. Why is this? Perhaps it's just date utils. Yeah, it's just date utils. Guys, I think I might include this by default, but if I don't, you must remember, just like you include math, you include date utils, okay? Alright, so if this if statement is true, please show an appropriate message. Alright, so I'm going to say here, what should we say? Pickup date must be after today's date, yes. Pickup date must be after today's date. Right, cool. And stop the program. Alright. That's cool. And stop the program. You guys see what happened there? When I try to put the apostrophe, it's all this is closing the string. I don't know how to fix that, so I'm just going to have a grammar issue there, or punctuation issue. So terminate my program, exit. Cool beans. Next validation is validate and process first name and last name. So what they mean here is basically if either this field or this field is empty, show an appropriate message. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. If edt name dot text is equal to nothing. No, I'm assigning nothing to it. I'm not testing if it's equal to nothing. So this literally meant please put nothing in that variable. That's why that didn't work there. Okay. So I'm going to show an appropriate message. Show message. Please enter your name. Okay, make that P capital. Alright, so the next and stop your program. Yes. Right, the next validation is I could have made this shorter and put it in one if statement, but for the sake of practice, I'm going to do two separate if statements, and I'm just going to test the surname. Okay, what did I call it? EDT, last name, hypo. Why did I do that? Right. Please enter your last name. Okay, so there we've validated, we've tested for the presence of data in those two fields. Now the next thing we have to do, we're going to start building this reservation code. So what they want is for us to store the initial of last name as capital letter, alright? So they want us, let's say my last name is Reese. Okay, so they want us to, I understand this, they want us to take the first letter and store it as a capital letter. Okay, yeah, that's what they want us to do. Well, why does it say last name? Okay, cool, but I mean most surnames already have the first letter as capital, so maybe in case it's not, well, then we make it a capital. Alright, so what variable are we going to use? First name initial, and yet the question clearly states last name. Alright, but anyway, I'm going to use that variable, put it here, and I'm going to take the first letter from my EDT last name, and I'm going to make sure it is an uppercase. Okay, so this is how you do it. Uppercase. Alright, and then EDT last name. Okay, if you are referring to a single letter stored in that edit box, you can, similar to an array, you can open up a window and refer to that single character, and that is also why we are using the word uppercase instead of uppercase. If you are working with a single character, it's uppercase. If you are trying to make a whole sentence to be capital letters, then you would use uppercase. So in other words, a string is uppercase. Right, cool. So this, we'll look at the first letter stored in this edit box, change it to capital letter, and store it in there. Right, cool. That does that. Next, ensure the last name has at least one character. Okay, that's quite easy. So if the length of your last name, what variable did we use? I'm just going to use the edit box. EDT last name dot text, alright, is less than 1. Okay, then let us show a message. Okay, show message. Last name con BMT. Okay, so ensure the last name has at least one character. So now you're testing if the length of the last name is less than 1. If the length of something is less than 1, it means it doesn't have a length. It's non-existent. So this is actually a nice way of, I mean, what we could have done is basically also, test if it's just empty, like we normally do, I suppose. Like we could have tested if EDT last name dot text is just equal to that. So, but anyway, this is a new way of doing it. It's quite cool. Thank you, ChatGPT. Okay, so if this happens, also please terminate your program right there. Next, we need to create this reservation code. So the first thing is ASCII value of the first character of the last name, capitalized. So ASCII value, basically every letter has got a number that represents it, okay? And you can look them up in an ASCII table. So basically, this first letter of our surname, which we got here, they want us to get the ASCII value of this, okay? Now, this will be in the exam. They will ask you to get the ASCII value of a letter at a certain position. Okay, so this is how you do it. Right, so I think we have a variable called reservation ID. Okay, I'm going to use this one. Okay, so this is how you do it. To get the ASCII, you say odd. You use the odd function there. Alright? And then of basically this. Okay. The first letter of your last name. We should really change this to last name, but anyway. Okay. And this is already uppercase, so that's satisfied. This will return an integer. Okay, so it will look at this character. Odd will get the number that represents this character. So this returns an integer. Now let us see what type of variable reservation ID is. It is a string. Okay. Can we put an integer return into a string variable? No. So you have to say int to string. Into string. There we go. Happy days. Okay, what next? They say we need to have a random number between 1000 and basically 10,000. Okay, so do we have a variable that we're going to store that in? Yes, there it is. Okay. I'm going to say random range, the bottom value, and then the top value plus 1, which is 10,000. Okay, random range is not happy. Why? Please include math. Okay, happy days. Okay, so we got that. What else do we need? So we got the random 4-digit number, we got ASCII. Now they want the first 2 letters of first name in uppercase. Okay, do we have a variable for that? We don't have a variable for that. Let's make a variable. Let's say first 2, make it a string as well. Okay, so we're going to need to get the first 2 letters of the first name and make sure it's uppercase. Okay, so first 2. Now, if they had said just 1 letter, or maybe just the second letter, we could have done this. We could have said, what did we store it as first name? What's the variable? Did we store it anywhere? Or just kept it in the, yeah, okay. We could have said EDT name and referred to second character there and just made this uppercase. Okay. So this would look at the second character in your name, and because it's 1 character, it changes it to uppercase. But this, because it's 1 character, would be char. This is string, alright? Now the reason why I've made it string and I'm not going to do it like this is because they said we need the first 2 letters. So, how do we copy the first 2 letters of something? We use copy. Where are we copying from? Copying from EDT name dot text. And where are we starting from? The first character, how many do we want? 2. means. Now, what we are going to do is display pickup date and reservation ID. Okay, this reservation ID is actually this combined. So it's the odd, it's the random number, and it's the first two. This one is actually, yeah. Anyways, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up this reservation ID. Reservation ID. Alright, it's already got that. So now I just need this one next. So I'm going to say what it was plus first two plus interstring random number. Okay, so now I've built up my code. It consists of the odd value of the first letter in my surname. It has the first two letters in my name to uppercase. And uppercase, guys, we did not convert this here to uppercase. Uppercase, there we go. And it consists of a random 3-digit number. Okay, now they just want us to display this in our reservation, in our rich edit. This one, a rich edit. So guys, a rich edit is almost like a memo. In fact, I think it's got the exact same, yeah, you just say .lines.add, it's basically exactly the same. Okay, so say the name of it, which is red reservation details. Red reservation details. Exactly like memo now, .lines.add, open brackets. Okay, they want the pickup date first. I'm going to have a word saying pickup date. Alright, and then this is how you display a date. Okay, you say format date time. Okay, and then almost like those forms you fill out. It's first the day, then the month, and then the year gets 4. Alright, that comes in quotes, then comma, and then the name of your date variable, which is pick up date. Okay, cool. Okay. What else do they want us to display in here? They want us to display our reservation ID. Okay, so I'm going to have another line. Okay, and I'm going to say reservation ID. Okay, and is that closed? I'm just going to display my reservation ID. It's already string, so I don't have to do any conversions. Okay, enable BTN confirmation. Now what does this mean? Check what happens if I run this program. Besides the fact that there is an error. Oh goodness. What? Why is there an error? Oh, because that must be a capital. Right, besides the fact that there was an error, still an error. What's wrong? Class does not have a default property. Hey? What's the error, guys? Class does not have a default property. Where is the error? Where is the error? I'm consulting ChatGPT here, guys. Give me a second. Upcase dot text. Do we have to say dot text? Yes, you have to say dot text. Alright, so that's how you get the character at that position in your edit box. Change it to uppercase. Dot text. Okay. Okay, so what does that enabled mean? You see, this is a button, but but I cannot press on it. The reason for that is in my form show, so when I double clicked on my GUI, I said that button not enabled, put it to false. So every button, happens to be this one, has got a property that is called enabled, and if you set that to false, it means when you run it you cannot click on your button. So what they want us to do is just enable it so that we can click on it. Right, so this form crate, I made it by double clicking on my GUI, not on my panel, on my GUI. This code, whatever you put in here, is the first thing that runs when you click on your run. Right, so I run my program, that button is not enabled. So that is why I cannot click on it. But now here, in this button, they want us to enable it. Alright, so you simply refer to the name dot enable to the property, and you set it to true. Now when you run it and you click on the button, that's okay. Please enter your name. This is all the validation checks that we have to do. Bob, Sally, reservation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, so pickup date 26th of May. That's the code they generated, and now this is enabled. Alright, cool beans, guys. So you're going to do this tomorrow in class, and probably on Wednesday also, because this one's a bit long and it's important, and there's a bit of new work. Okay, but if you guys can get this, phew, the rest, easy money, easy marks. Okay guys, cheers.